in middle school, I remember getting in trouble because I walked by a classroom door and I waved at some of my fellow classmates, but I didn't use all of my fingers. And here's the thing, though. That teacher wrote in my yearbook that year. She was the gifted teacher of the school. She was a great teacher. And she wrote in my yearbook, she goes, Kevin, if you ever realize your full potential and actually apply yourself, there will be no stopping. And, you know, I'm sure she just was so glad to see me leave that summer and not come back. But what's interesting is her words made a big difference in my life. And sometimes it's through the actions that Rodney talked about. Sometimes it's through words. And sometimes it's just through encouragement and being there. And the difference that you guys make. And it reminds me of the story. Have any of you ever heard of Norman Borlaug? So Norman Borlaug is a guy, they wrote a book about him. They called him the man who fed the world. He set up a station in Mexico where he figured out how to hybridize corn and wheat so that they would grow in arid climates. So the corn and wheat was mixed in a certain way, and they literally say that he saved the lives of more than 2 billion people today. More than 2 billion people. They gave him the Nobel Prize, and they called him the man who fed the world. But maybe the credit really should go to a guy named Henry Wallace. Now, Henry Wallace was one of the vice presidents under FDR. But before that, he was the Secretary of Agriculture, and in that role, he had one focused job. He was so obsessed with one thing, and what he wanted to do was set up a station that would hybridize corn and wheat for arid climates. And so he invested his time and his energy and his resources into doing that. And he set up a station in Mexico, and he hired a young guy by the name of Norman Borlaug. So maybe Henry Wallace should get the credit. Give him the Nobel Prize, write the book about him, call him the man who fed the world. Or maybe the credit should go to George Washington Carver. Now, what's George Washington Carver famous for?
Peanuts.
Peanuts. Everything is peanuts. But what a lot of people don't know is when he was a graduate student at Iowa State University, he'd go to classes during the week, and on the weekends, he'd hang out on campus. And there was a professor there that had a little boy, and when that professor would be busy doing other things, George Washington Carver would take his son. And he'd spend time with him, and he invested in him, and he played out in the garden, and he literally instilled in that little boy a love for agriculture and for the potential of plants. And that little boy that George Washington Carver invested in grew up to become Vice President of the United States. His name was Henry Wallace, who set up a station in Mexico to hybridize corn and wheat for arid climate. So maybe George Washington Carver should get the credit. Say that he saved the lives of 2 billion people, give him the Nobel Prize, call him the man who fed the world. Or maybe the credit should go to Moses, who was a farmer in Diamond, Missouri. And see, Moses, he lived in a slave state, but he didn't believe in slavery. And so this caused problems for he and his wife, Susan. And one night, a group of people, angry men, came to his farm, and they attacked them. They burned down his house. They stole things from them. And there was a lady that night who wouldn't let go of her little baby boy, and so they snatched her up, and they rode off on their horse with her and the baby boy into the distance. And Moses and his wife Susan were distraught. If that was Susan's best friend, and she said, Moses, you've got to find a way to get her back. And so he did everything he could. He made connections, and he ended up finding out that the mom had been killed, but the little boy was still alive. And so he made a deal that he would take his last horse that he had left, and he would trade it for that baby boy. And so on a cold January night, Moses got on his horse. He rode 4 hours north into Kansas, and he met a group of guys who had sacks over their faces with holes cut out for their eyes. And that night, he traded the only horse he had left for what they threw him in a burlap sack on the ground. And he leaned down, and he pulled out a cold, almost dead infant baby boy. And he opened up his shirt, and he put the baby next to his skin. And as he walked that baby out that night, he told him how much he loved him, how much he cared about him, how he was going to honor his mother, and how he was going to educate him and raise him as his own child. And he said to show how much he loved him, he would even give him his last name. And that's how Moses and Susan Carter came to adopt little baby George Washington. So maybe it's the farmer from Diamond, Missouri that should get the credit. Give him the Nobel Prize. Credit him with saving the lives of 2 billion people. Call him the man who fed the world. Or maybe, and here's the interesting thing, you don't know how far back you go. Because you don't know what action was taken or what happened that set off a chain of events that literally changed the face of the world. And every day, as you guys sit in classrooms and you teach different things and you invest in students, and sometimes it's fun, and honestly, sometimes it's frustrating. But you have an opportunity to impact individuals. You never know what will happen. And now, because of a middle school teacher who got me in trouble for using the middle finger, but her encouragement, I've had the opportunity to work with leaders on 6 continents for more than 100 countries. And a lot of it is attributed to teachers who encourage me along the way. And so I'm so thankful for the opportunity we can do with the Chick-fil-A Foundation and how we invest in students. But as important as investing in students, that we get to invest in educators. And so we just want to thank you. I wrote a book last year, and the Chick-fil-A Foundation has generously wanted to give each of you one of those. And so on your way out today, as you head to your next session,
woohoo!
there will be one of those gifts. I know that a lot of people think that, teachers have summers off, and here you guys are.